Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, matters of life, and the key thing about religious attitudes to matters of life is that many aspects of it have to be answered by when people believe that human life begins. And that's the first question that we're going to ask: is when does human life begin? Now, obviously, happens at some point in the womb, or even at birth, and so very early on in everybody's development. And some people believe it's here at the moment of conception when the sperm and egg meet, because you get your 23 chromosomes from your mum and your 23 chromosomes from your dad, and that makes you, and things like your hair colour and your eye colour and all those kind of things that affect you later on in life, even some of the diseases that you'll get, that's made at this particular point in time. However, other people believe that no, that's not when human life begins. That's just a zygote or a very early fetus, an embryo. That's not human life. It doesn't look like a human life, as you can see from some of these pictures later on. And so human life must happen at some point during pregnancy. There's various different ideas about when that happens. Maybe it's here, when some of the major organs are formed, or even here when people can see, if they look at pictures in the womb of things like fingernails growing and hair growing and things like that. Or is it at this point in time? At this point in time, these are little babies that have been born, actually born into the world at sometimes under 20 weeks, but mostly between 20 weeks and 24 weeks. Very, very premature, very early. And some people believe that that's when life begins, because if a baby can survive outside the womb, so without the need of its mother's support, then surely that's a human life, and that's when human life begins. And indeed, the law seems to think that, because you can't have an abortion after 24 weeks in the UK, after 24 weeks, as long as the baby and the fetus is healthy. Or does it happen here at birth, when the baby's actually born and all its organs are working, its lungs and everything else like that? Is that when human life begins? And some religious believers believe that. And we're going to look at that in a second, and how that affects belief, especially about things like genetic engineering and IVF and AIH and save your siblings, but also, some of the other major issues, and surrogacy, some of the other major issues. And ultimately it's down to you. What do you think? But it affects the belief, because if a fetus is destroyed early on, as it is in maybe IVF, say for example, then is that committing murder if it's a human life? So the important question is, when do you think human life begins, if you're going to answer this question? So what do you think?
Hello, I am Pope Benedict the 16th. I used to be Pope, but now I am not the Pope anymore. However, I am here today to talk to you about what Roman Catholics believe about fertility treatment. That's IVF and artificial insemination. Now, Roman Catholics do not support fertility treatments at all. They believe it should be in God's hands whether a couple can have a child or not. A child is a gift and not a right. Also, Roman Catholics are against it, as both involve masturbation, which they believe is wrong. But they especially disagree with AID, as one of my predecessors said, that it is not a married couple, and indeed it is mechanical adultery. So all forms of IVF and artificial insemination, according to Roman Catholic Christians, are wrong. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rowan Williams, the ex-Archbishop of Canterbury, and like my predecessor Pope Benedict, I am here to talk to you about the Church of England's view on IVF and AIH. Now, we believe that both of these methods of conception are fine, as long as they happen between a married couple. It is providing a loving parent with a child, and we agree with Joseph Fletcher here with the idea of loving your neighbour, and both AIH and IVF are a way of loving your neighbour and the unborn child. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Fletcher. I was a Christian, and I believe that you should take Jesus' words literally. Jesus said, love your neighbour, so in every situation you should do the most loving thing. And that makes any form of IVF or artificial insemination or surrogacy quite easy to judge. If the situation is the most loving thing for the family and the child, then I believe Jesus would allow it, and actually would have allowed it to be bringing up the child with loving parents and the child in the loving arms of a great family. So therefore, all forms of artificial conception would be fine as long as they are the most loving thing.
Muslims, they allow IVF and AIH for married couples, but do not support AID, a bit like the Roman Catholics, as they see it as adultery. However, frozen sperm of an ex-husband or dead partner, again, should not be used.
Hello everyone, this is Pope Benedict again, and I will talk to you about the whole of Christianity, about surrogacy. Now, Christians do not support surrogacy at all, and they believe this because they believe it is God's decision whether you should have a child. Life is a gift, not a right, and it involves a third party in a much bigger way than donating just the sperm, and strikes at the very heart of family life, and can cause massive problems for everyone concerned, including the child and definitely the two mothers. So we do not allow Christians in general believe that surrogacy is wrong.
Muslims disagree with surrogacy, as it is outside marriage that the pregnancy happens. They use this quote, "None can be their mothers except those who gave them birth." Quran 58:2.
Hello there. Now, one final thing from me. What do religions say about genetic engineering and designer babies and save your siblings and things like that would involve some form of engineering of genes? Well, Christians believe that it is actually wrong. Roman Catholics believe that you shouldn't in any way experiment on embryos, undermining the sanctity of life, and also that therefore you should not design babies and certainly save your siblings in order to change their genes to benefit others. It is in some way going against the sanctity of life. Now, certainly for save your siblings, that's easy to see, because you actually go against helping the actual sibling who is born to help the other one. However, in the Church of England we do support research on embryos under 14 days old, as long as these embryos are not just created for research, but also for life in general. Me again, I'm probably the hardest one to decide whether what is the most loving thing. So, if Jesus said love your neighbour, then allowing babies to be designed and to be genetic engineered so certain diseases, or even save your siblings, then how much love it will provide to the family is whether it's the most loving thing. Now, to save your siblings and maybe even having another baby because a parent wanted the child or just wanted to save their older children would seem to be allowed under this kind of idea, to be able to do the most loving thing in the particular situation for the child, both who is being born to be born into a loving family, and the child who's going to be saved to save your sibling. And also for genetically engineering children so that they don't have the certain genes, the bad genes that provide all the faulty stuff for their family in the past. This could be a really good thing for diseases like breast cancer and any form of cancer that actually needs to be solved. So it looks like that Jesus would actually say in those situations doing the most loving thing is the most important.
Muslims believe that we should use the scientific knowledge that Allah, the Muslim God, has given to us. However, embryos should not be created for research, but those left over from IVF can be used. And therefore, things like genetic engineering and designer babies and save your siblings, it's wrong, as Allah chooses the identity that we have, and we should not change the plans that Allah has for His people. He made human beings for what they are. So Muslims, whilst they support scientific knowledge and using scientific knowledge, would have a problem with things like designer babies and save your siblings.